preparing for those scholarships and so forth, and gives them a package as they graduate to go off to school that has laptops and so forth. They give them tools that they will need. So anyway, this entity, you'll hear more in detail about them when we invite the director. But I submit to you that this community group, which already fits into the demographic to be an Interact club, would be something that our club can handle without taking on much of any expense, because the logistics of their meeting place is already secured. They meet at the university. Their meetings, in fact, they have insurance for anything happening during their meetings, liability insurance. They would be able to meet with us any and every Saturday or any time that we want, because they have access to the video conferencing facilities at the university where they meet. They use the Zoom platform as well as Skype, so they can easily join in with us, their leadership or the entire group. They would be able to represent us as they go out in the community and perform certain functions. It can be a joint effort as Interact, as well as, you know, University Bound themselves. Something that I've spoken with the director about in terms of whether or not it's even a possibility, and it is. So I just wanted to bring this to the club, talk about some of these potentials that we have, and, you know, find out if it's something that you guys are interested in, because if so, then I'll invite the director and I'll give you guys a detailed presentation. So, looking at the time.
I have a question.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
From my understanding of sponsoring an Interact Club, right? And I used to be the chair for youth services in the previous club that I was with. And I used to attend the Interact meetings every Wednesday at an all-boys school, right?
Yes.
We would have to have a Rotarian present. So are you saying that you would be that Rotarian?
Well, I oftentimes attend their meetings, whether it's on a Saturday, that's generally where I go after our meeting, or, you know, whenever they do call meetings, sometimes they use a platform that I have so that they can meet online and so forth. They already have the other meetings. And so, yes, I would gladly be willing to do that, as well as I know Amaryllis is here and another prospective member that may decide to, that we may accept moving over from Club St. Thomas, that has worked extensively with Interact clubs, and he has an interest to continue doing that.
John.
Brent, I think this is beautiful. I think that we can, in addition to what they're learning and they're doing for being college bound, that we can help instill Rotary values and ethics, and that would be an outstanding opportunity and certainly well needed, I know, in the Virgin Islands. I have a question as to how many participants do they have now, and then in regards to Leslie's comment, I think that if you can't make the meeting, certainly one of us or any of us could Zoom in to be present during a 1 hour period of Interact.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
How many kids do they got?
The program houses 108 students, and I say houses because during the regular academic year, they are not hosted on campus. It's a program, you know, they live at home and come to the campus for the weekend sessions. But during the summer, the same program houses those students on campus and gives them the campus experience. It gives them access to courseware that would gain them a few credits when they go into college. They're given the academic regimen for the summer. The phones are taken away. In fact, they have to volunteer to give the phones away during the summer. They live on campus. They get that campus experience. They try and get accustomed to what it's going to be like for them when they get this newfound freedom. And it makes all the difference in the world. I am the chair of the Business Development Committee for this program, and they lost federal funding, a little history. Going backwards, it used to be Upward Bound, which is a federal program that was from President Johnson. And at some point along the way, funding was cut back. And so some of the respective universities around the country lost funding for Upward Bound, as did the University of the Virgin Islands. At that point, that's when I got involved to try and help them raise funds. And so we've kept the program going. We rebranded from that year from Upward Bound to University Bound. We have the same goals and aspirations, but we're no longer bound by federal funds.
I'm familiar with that to a fair extent. I have a grandson in North Carolina who has been in Upward Bound or College Bound with the university in Western North Carolina, Western Central North Carolina. I presume that the members of this group would be voluntarily becoming interactors, correct?
Yes, and interestingly so, some of them already are Interact members from their respective schools. So if so, those persons would be as visitors to our club, because they're already Interact members. As you know, there's Interact at Eudora Ken and CAHS, as well as All Saints and some of the other schools, Antilles and so forth.
This could be probably the largest Interact club in the district.
There you go.
Brent, may I?
Yes, please.
No, you can't see me to raise my hand.
Oh, Jackie.
Jackie, yeah.
Sorry, Diana had her hand up first.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Diana.
You're muted.
Okay, thank you, Jackie and Brent. Brent, I think this is a great concept. I like the synergy between the two organizations. I mean, it's in that respect, I think it's a no-brainer. What does concern me is we're dealing with youth protection here, and I have to say it concerns me, but that's really to some degree a standpoint of ignorance, because I'm not absolutely certain about the rules and regulations that apply to the formation of an Interact club. But where I might be concerned is that, yes, we happen to have two members who reside permanently in the venue that this potential club would meet, but we can never guarantee that. It's not something we can ever say that there will always be somebody there for it. Whether or not Rotary would accept a partnership with an organization like Upward Bound or College Bound, I would like to think they would, but for the purpose of forming an Interact club, I don't know. So I love the concept, but I would like to, I would like to see us do a little more research in terms, before we actually talk to and have a proper presentation from University Bound, that we get our ducks in a row and know what our parameters are. And I honestly don't know what they are, but I know it's strict obviously for young people. So that would be my comment. But I love the idea.
Thank you, PDG Diana. I agree with you 100%. And that's the purpose of this very first meeting with the club, to broach the subject and to get some feedback and some support. I reached out to the district chair of Interact, that's Donovan Walker. to get some guidance. One of the things that you mentioned is a concern in terms of the partnership itself, because in essence, that's what it would be, a partnership between the E-Club of the Caribbean and the University of the Virgin Islands university-bound program. And another issue is whether or not we wanted to tackle both districts at one time. My suggestion would be not, but instead to focus on our home-based district, which is Charlotte-Amalie, to focus on the Interact Club in St. Thomas that serves St. Thomas and St. Croix students, St. Thomas and St. John students, for the purpose of making sure that, one, we don't bite off more than we can chew, and that it's properly monitored along the way. I know Jackie and Deverett and you guys are in St. Croix, but the director is in St. Thomas. The stronger portion of the program is in St. Thomas. There's more activities that happen over here. And as an organization, we have been working to build up the program in St. Croix so that it not just has members, but that it participates in some of the same activities, community-wide activities, that the St. Thomas St. John district does. So I would suggest those two things, and I definitely agree with everything Ollie concerns.
May I, Brent?
Please, Jackie.
Oh, first off, I agree with everything. I read everything everyone said. I really think that this is a fantastic idea. But maybe I missed something. Are we talking about it being an electronic club, or are we talking about it being, well, a hardcore terror club?
Good question. It's a terror club, and they have the capabilities to meet with us on Zoom at any time. As you know, University Bound is both in St. Croix and in St. Thomas. So we're speaking about the portion of the program in St. Thomas. And so it's a group of some 54 students, approximately, more or less, that meet every Saturday. And in addition to the academic assistance that they receive, they also do a ton of community-wide projects. So we can certainly have hands and feet on the ground representing us, working with other Interact clubs, working with the Rotary Club, which is something I forgot to mention, John, that many of these students may end up at the University of the Virgin Islands. And as you know, there's a Rotary Club there. And so this would pretty much guarantee that students are hopping from Interact to Rotary, along the way. And even if not, that the ideals of Rotary are instilled in them. So definitely, in answer to your question, Jackie, this is hands and feet on the ground, and as well as they have access to all of the video conferencing equipment, where in areas that they typically meet, and they can meet with us at any time, any week.
Dennis?
Did I sufficiently answer?
Brent, can I go back on the previous comment that I made? Because I think there may be two solutions to this. The Rotary Club of St. Thomas, for example, doesn't have to be, but they are the sponsors for the Rotaract Club of the University of the Virgin Islands, as you know.
Yes.
What would then put it within the parameters of Rotary is if we shared the sponsorship of the Interact Club. That's one way, perhaps, that we may be able to get around any difficulties with RI. The other one is that we could very much be involved with the organization. We can come up with some name that we want it for this project for us to associate it with. We don't have to call it an Interact Club. It's it's not what we would like to do, but it is perhaps another solution, that you have the partnership, we are involved with the meetings, but not, those children are not our responsibility, but we are there as a, you know, as a strong support and sponsor, I guess. But sponsor with you know, not in the way that you would normally consider a sponsor of an Interact Club. So there's another couple of suggestions that we might want to consider if we run into deep water.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that.
And I think
I would certainly like for you to expound on it more. In terms of the liability, is something that we would have to address with any group that we do business with. So yeah, that's one issue. And also in terms of how we partner with them. What you just said there was interesting. I'd like to find out more about it in terms of the pros and cons of us looking to have, you know, them as us as a sponsor, as an Interact, or if with some other type of designation that may achieve the same objectives without necessarily sticking our neck out too far. I happen to think it's already a situation like that, but as we flesh it out, we'll begin to see where the pros and cons actually reside. But I would like to find out more about that. Another thing that you touched on is Club St. Thomas. They have a situation where they may be looking for a partner to assist them with their Interact Club, which is at Charlotte Amalie, the largest school over in St. Thomas, largest high school. You know, because their youth chair is moving around, and you know, they may have some issues there. Now, that is not something that I can speak to. I've worked with them on a few small projects, but not as extensively as I worked with Rotary at UVI. I don't know what the pros and cons would be of doing that. I don't know. I would have to do an analysis and be able to compare the two, provide you the information so you could compare the two.
All right, are there any more questions with regards to this potential project that we want to undertake?
Yes, please. Roger.
Yeah, Brent, I mean, I echo everything that's been said in terms of the positive and also the vehicle that you have selected to try and do it. I have a slightly more detailed question, but I think it's something we should ask. How do the people who are running the program at the moment see the Interact meeting fitting within the 4 hours that you described as being their Saturday morning, afternoon program? I think I heard you mention an hour, and certainly and you know better than I, that the Interact Club, certainly at Charlotte Amalie, only ran for 25 minutes because that was all the recess time they had to do it. So I'd be interested in your discussions how the program directors see Interact fitting, and honestly, what would happen if some of their members decided they really didn't want to join Interact? Or is that, I mean, there has to be a volunteer thing, and if you've got 50 people and 10 say, well, I don't want to do that, they've got to find something else for them to do while Interact's going on. So it may sound a little detailed, but I'd like to get behind that before we step too far along this particular path.
It definitely does not sound too detailed. First and foremost, they meet every Saturday during the academic year, which raises other issues because how do we accommodate this during the summer, if so? But, you know, because some of them travel and so forth. But they meet for 4 hours every Saturday, and the director is able to amend their schedule however she sees fit to accommodate whatever meetings they may have during that time frame for Interact. That's one piece. And the other piece would be, again, something that we need to review. How would it work? Because definitely it would have to be a voluntary thing. Now, having the support of the club and the director is one thing, but how do we accommodate the different students? The director may say something to the effect, well, she knows the vast majority of students would be interested because of how Rotary is already regarded at the university, and the majority would probably be corralled over to one side for whatever timeline, but I don't know. I'm putting words in her mouth, but more than likely, there's a way around that. So it wouldn't be necessarily 100% of the university bound membership that's Interact Club members, but it may be a very large contingent of them.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Did you, Dan?
Well, I think that's an interesting point that Roger had raised, because I had not realized that they met for as long as they did.
Yes.
I'm wondering then if rather than try to go the whole hog initially, if we I don't know how the members would feel about if we did an experimental year, for instance, and that we said we offer a Rotary hour. I don't know what you want to call it, but we offer that hour. We may say we want to offer the hour once a month, or we may want to take, because an hour online is about as much as anyone can take, I think, or once a week. However we decide we think what we can manage, and that we actually do host it as a club, hopefully with one of our members physically there. But if not, we give them a program. Now, that program can be a discussion on ethics. It could be anything you want. And it kind of broadens our scope as to how we could get involved. As that then evolves, and if we see that there's a format that comes out of this that we can then move forward more formally into either Interact or however
Yes.
we can do it, that we've kind of tested the water and got our feet wet. I don't know how our members would feel about that, rather than going, or how you would feel about it, rather than going the whole.
Well, I can tell you right off the bat, I would be amenable to anything that our club would try to do along the lines of achieving these objectives. And what you're mentioning achieves the same objectives. It would allow us to begin collaboration and interaction with them, to begin to kind of feel the process out, until we also as a club are entirely comfortable with pulling the trigger on it. So it would certainly achieve the very same objectives. So I have no desire to necessarily do it all now or do it my way. No, this is a club.
Is that Jackie with her hand up?
Yeah, yes, it is. I'm just
I'm seeing
back,
that.
I'm sorry. I'm finding out how to use this electronic thing, guys.
Okay.
So I was able to raise my hand electronically. But my question to Diana is, if we do a test run, does that mean that we do not register? It's not official with Rotary International?
Exactly. We are just saying that a project of ours is that we sponsor a Rotary hour at an upward bound club, and that it is geared towards responsible leadership with the future generation, and it's simply a project. We have no relationship with these students in terms of, we're not taking them on trips, we're not taking them into our own homes, we're not, there are no liability issues that I can see, but it gives us an opportunity to meet with these young people, to find out what their needs are, and also to work with the partner entity to get to know them. But by the time we've got to the end of the year, we will all feel comfortable or not with the situation that we have, and how we can take it further and how we can improve on it. No, I had no, this is actually to delay anything official until we really feel it can work.
Yeah, I agree with you, PG.
Yeah, I do also, because you know, it's a lot of unique concerns that we have here as the E-Club, that we need to really make sure that all aspects of any type of partnership like this works. So, you know, they still would be receiving guidance from us, and that's my concern.
All right, the last question comes from Roger.
Okay, well, it's not really a question. I'd just like to reinforce what Diana said, because I think apart from anything else, it would certainly make our presentation or application to RI a lot more powerful if we could say what we had done in the lead up to the application to demonstrate its viability.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Roger. So we have 5 more minutes left in the meeting, and I would just like to take this opportunity to give you guys a few updates. So we're going to have a board meeting on the 23rd, another board meeting, already met as a board last weekend. This is specifically with regards to the bylaws that we discussed last week. I trust that everyone has sent in their recommendations by the deadline that our secretary gave us. That was Friday. The last weekend of the month, as the 29th, we're going to have another business meeting to finalize the bylaws. And we will be voting on these bylaws during this business meeting. All right. Is there anything else, Sarge?
No, just to add, the addition of the fines or the happy dollars would start next week. So I hope you remember what we spoke about this morning. And look out for a few surprises. I'm not going to tell you everything. Can't give you all the answers right now.
All right, Secretary Bryant, anything from you before we go into the 4-way test?
No, next week, you mentioned the meeting at the end of the month?
Yes.
Okay, yes, okay, wasn't paying attention, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
I'm good.
All right, well, Director Dawn, can you do the 4-way test?
I think
Henriette, get your hand up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just tried to go to raise my hand electronically, but it didn't work. So
yes, I'm seeing it. It worked.
It did. Okay, yes. So I just wanted to apologize, but I haven't heard what is the business about happy dollars. You mean this is starting next week?
Yes, next week, next meeting.
So how do you do that?
Well, there are a few things that we will look out for. For example, your birthday. If you're celebrating your birthday next week, Saturday, then no? You're not celebrating, don't worry. But
no,
that
I
is
celebrated Bastille's Day yesterday, but
okay. So we have various things that we'll be looking out for, and I gave a list of some of the basic things: arriving to the meeting late, or speaking out of turn when you're not acknowledged, celebrating your birthday, that sort of thing. Those are some of the basic ground rules.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So the only, I don't want to take too much of your time. My main concern is how do you get the dollars in the buckets when you're fined?
We will advise of how that will work. For now, don't worry about it. We'll get it done.
Okay.
Just one question. I have a couple guests. So I'm just wondering about the last week we were in a board meeting to discuss the bylaws. Is this a closed group meeting that you're having next week and the following week?
Next week is not.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Madam President.
The business meetings are closed meetings, and our board meetings are closed meetings as well.
Okay, so for clarity, then the next 2 weeks, we'll just not show up and come the third week.
Yeah, we want to focus on the business of the club,
okay,
and the administration of the club for the month of July. mainly.
If I
Madam
may, let
President.
me clarify, President
Yeah.
Leslie.
Okay.
I think we said that next week, Sunday, would be, let me get it straight.
The board meeting.
Yes, next week, Sunday, would be the board meeting, which is the 23rd. And so the Saturday before, which is the 22nd, is an open meeting. Is that not correct?
Regular meeting, correct. Correct.
Okay.
So, and the last Saturday of the month, the 29th, will be the business meeting, which is closed.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
So please, I'll see you guys next week too.
Yes.
All right, so Dawn, Director Dawn, can you lead us in the four-way test, please?
Okay. Of the things that we think, say, and do, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it true?
Est-ce vrai?
Fair to all concerned.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Juste.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Goodwill, better friendship.
Is it beneficial to all concerned?
Is it beneficial to all concerned?
C'est équitable et bénéfique pour chacun.
And is it fun?
Is it? Will be fun.
And do Rotary around the world.
Rotary around the world.
And don't wear socks.
You'll be fine for that. I'm gonna ask you to show me your feet. Don't worry about that.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming.
Okay.